This special meeting of the City of Eureka Springs City Council will now come to order. Ms. Clerk, would you establish quorum, please?
James DeVito.
Here.
Butch Berry.
Present.
Lady Balance. Dean Kirkpatrick.
Here.
Parker Raphael.
Here.
Ken Pownall.
Okay. First, we need to establish we had the required people to call the meeting to order. Called the meeting, and that was Ms. Balance, Mr. Raphael, and Dr. Kirkpatrick. Is that correct? Okay. And we need to establish the fact that the press has been notified, the radio station been notified by city ordinance. Is that correct? I think that's what the statute says.
I have no awareness of a radio station, and it's always been the press.
Okay. Was this, and I'm just trying to figure out who's going to be here. Were y'all the only ones notified? City, as far as you know? Was the Carroll County News notified?
Yes. I got an email that had a lot of people that started about
Okay. Will that suffice, Mr. Weaver?
The city ordinance appears to require notification of the radio and TV stations, and in the past, the radio station has been on the list.
What TV station?
Radio station in particular, but any TV station that is asked requested would have been added to the list also. And the radio station in Berryville, to my knowledge, has always been on the list, unless it's been removed.
Thank you. I would love to see that list. I haven't been able to locate one, but if you have one, I would like very much to see it.
It should be in your possession. It's filed with the clerk.
And what radios, what TV station?
KY3 has been notified in the past. I don't know if they are on the list or not at this time.
Thank you. I'll look for it.
But if the radio station has not been notified, it probably means this meeting does not meet the requirements of the current ordinance as adopted. Additionally, we need to see how Mr. Pownall was notified, and has he waived his presence or waived notification.
I can print out the email he sent me if you'd like. He's back in town. He has family. He was not able to come and said he would not be able to come. He's fully aware of it.
But if the radio station is on that list, this could be an illegal meeting if you've not notified them.
So you're considering the Berryville radio station?
I know that in the past that they have requested information to be notified of all special meetings. I don't know if they're on the list now or not. That's something you should have in your files.
That would be ideal.
Do you think it's appropriate to go ahead and continue at this time?
I don't. I think the clerk should go check her records and see if she can find out if the meeting is properly notified. If it's not, everybody sitting at this table can be violating FOIA and the open meeting laws.
I've gone through all the files. I've never found a list including those two, if they need to be there.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Were they notified last week of our special meeting?
Sir, I have no idea.
Well, I meant posing the question.
Oh, to the clerk?
Not the radio and television.
So then we met last week in a special meeting. They weren't notified, so I don't know what has changed from last week to this week. Passed muster last week, so let's get it on.
Last week, you didn't have me here, and you didn't have, that I know of, anyone inquire.
It was agreed at the last council meeting to have the special meeting on Tuesday. So actually it was already out. I just backed it up with sending the emails and getting signatures. But again, if there is record somewhere that a Berryville radio station and a Springfield TV station need to be notified, I'll do that in the future. I just have never seen anything to that effect.
If they're on a list, if they're on the required list, and they're not notified, this meeting is in peril of violating the law.
If you have an awareness of the list, and I don't, it's not anything I can do anything about until I can see the list. But
Yeah, it'd be nice to see that list in writing. Do you have it?
I am not required to have that list. The clerk is, by your ordinance right here in this book.
How can somebody find something that doesn't exist?
Maybe she should look at who was notified in the past, if she believes there's no list.
Be happy to check on that.
So I want to make sure before we continue, if we can continue, that we're doing it by law. I did not call this meeting. The council members called this meeting, which they can do by law with 3 people, 3 council members. And since this issue is a touchy issue, and this is a special meeting, I want to make sure that it's being properly done. Doc?
Can I make a motion that, or say something about, can we postpone this till we find out exactly what is legal and not legal? Have our city clerk look it up, call another meeting, and do it properly. Instead of,
You
having a
can-
meeting and have it invalid.
Okay. Mr. Weaver? Can you put that in form of a motion since we're not even open for discussion yet?
I think that would be appropriate to stop this before it goes further if it's an illegal meeting.
Was it not in writing on the Channel 21?
No.
It was, there was a request to post it yesterday,
It's a notification in writing, is it not?
and it's a TV station.
There you go.
Mr. DeVito?
We have a regularly scheduled meeting the day after tomorrow. I don't see why we can't just do that at our regular meeting. I mean, there's no sense in having another special meeting. If we're not going to do anything today, then nothing is going to change between now and our regular meeting day after tomorrow.
Was that going to be your motion, Doc?
Yes.
Okay. So one of y'all pick it and make a motion, we'll deal with it.
I make a motion to cancel this meeting till we find out what the proper procedure is to do to notify.
Is there a second?
I'll second that and amend it to say that we could reconvene at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Can I come up with you?
You may not have a quorum this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
And I'll rescind that motion.
The original motion is, do you stick with your second? Or you withdraw it also? Okay. Yes, you are sticking with it? Okay. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to postpone until we figure out this is a regular meeting or,
Do we know when that is?
that's right, I don't know yet. Let's postpone it until the regular meeting night, Thursday night. Let's bring up the issue again.
Look through your records and see if there was actually what you need. I
Please
don't know
don't.
how you can find something that doesn't exist.
I would encourage you to not go in that direction.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to postpone until we figure out this is a duly noted meeting or not, or where all the requirements have been met. Now, Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes has drove all the way up here from Little Rock to address this issue. Now, he probably won't be back Thursday night.
Can
So,
I make a suggestion right now?
yes, sir, you may.
The law requires communication between the city and the press, so everybody can hang tight for a little bit. Maybe you could go check and see if you received anything from the press that says I'm supposed to be notified. Or it might be able to call the radio
Yes.
station and say, come on over, and they might be able to break the notice. It just is a potential suggestion.
The press was here.
Your ordinance, as I understand it, says that it's incumbent upon your office to notify press, radio, and TV. The implication of that is you notify those who ask to be notified. So what I don't know in that equation is who's been asked to be notified. I couldn't tell you.
Mr. Hayes, does it need to be in the code book to be law?
Just what?
That these specific entities, KTHS and KY3 in Springfield,
It does not
Missouri, and
necessarily need to be in the law, in your ordinance. What we need to find out is whether they asked the city to be notified of this. That's
and if there is no file folder, with that information, if that information is not available, then we are surmising that there is such a list. Yes? So if I go down there and go through every file drawer and find no list, then it is supposition that such a list exists, correct?
No, it would be supposition that nobody ever contacted me.
Okay, so what do we do if there's nothing there, in your opinion?
Contact you, I'll have to really act. I think you're probably okay. But I don't know that yet until I take a look at the act and see whether you've got notices.
The Freedom of Information Act states that the different entities shall contact you each year when they may ask.
Correct.
So if you haven't received anything since you've been in office,
We don't know that yet, I don't think.
I have not received anything except from the citizen. And as a courtesy, we've started sending things to Carroll County News for publication, if there's a new ordinance or something like that. But no radio station has ever contacted me. No TV station has ever contacted me.
Might be okay.
So-
Tim, I mean, if that's the case. I'd like to go pull the statute, look at it with your city attorney, and I'd also like to make sure that we've crossed all our T's and dotted our I's. I kind of like my law license. I really don't want to just
Yeah.
get it and leave.
Okay, so it's, you want to see the state statute? And
One of the questions I think we probably also need to address here is, does the citizen meet the requirements of a newspaper? Is that,
Perhaps.
I don't know, because it's been brought up in the past that
Where's the
I know that we allow them here, but
downstairs?
Carroll County News is the only one in the county that I know of. That's what I thought, sir. That's what I thought.
Call the radio station while you're at it.
Okay, we'll call a recess for just a few moments till
if the
Ms. Clerk
requirement
gets
is
back.
for them to contact me, why do you want me to call the radio station?
To contact them up in the meeting and see if they'll sign off on it.
Just don't call them late for dinner.
Actually, an attorney that's
recess.
We are in recess, yes.
We're in recess.
Yes, we are. We're coming out of recess back into a special meeting of the City Council, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Ms. Clerk was trying to find out who had been notified. Can you tell us what you found out?
There's no list in the computer or in the main file drawers of anybody who has been in the past notified or who has requested notification.
Okay.
And I went ahead and called the administrator at KESA, a local radio station, KTHS in Berryville, and a message is in to the editor of the Carroll County News in Berryville, and there are no answers back as of yet.
Okay. Mr. Weaver, will that the attempt suffice?
Let's let Mr. Hayes tell him what he found.
Mr. Weaver and I have looked at the statute, and your city attorney actually found a case that I think answers the question for you. The statute is 2519-106B2, The case is the Elmore case. It's from 1999, and effectively what it says is you are to notify anybody in the county who is asked to be notified and anybody else who routinely attends your meetings, who also have asked to be notified and put on that list. So if I understand it correctly, you don't have a list because trying to prove a negative, I'm assuming nobody's ever asked to be on the list. If that's true, then you're probably okay to have the meeting. I think that's where you're at. Tim may want to speak to that. I don't know.
Okay. You feel like it's safe to proceed then, Mr. Wood?
The absolute safest would be to not hold the meeting. But given the clerk's inability to find a list,
This may be, yeah.
the inability to find a list, and given what we looked at there in the code book, statutes, and the case, if you truly believe no list exists, you may want to proceed with this meeting.
Okay.
I do know, and from speaking with city personnel, know that in the past, other entities have been notified. Maybe that was simply a courtesy. Maybe they're not on the list anywhere. But we've been unable to reach the former clerk, who might know if there is a list. And there was mention a moment ago of the list expiring or being a notification required each year. I can find no instance that says that that is true. So you need to be aware that if the list exists, it probably doesn't expire. Not anything we could find in any of the statutes or codes at this time.
Did you look in the Freedom of Information Handbook?
It is, the book was consulted from the Press Association. Mr. Hayes has a copy of it over there. And we consulted the statute books and the municipal code.
For the purposes of the video, the clerk had contacted these people she had just previously stated and left her cell phone for a contact, and that may be who she's on the phone with now. So we'll see when she gets back.
Yeah, look at your Freedom of Information Handbook, please.
It's actually yours.
Was that one of your phone calls?
Yes, and the answer is, it's KTHS, and they said no thank you today, and they'll send something in writing for the future.
Okay. They've been notified. So with that in mind, I guess we will go ahead and proceed. Motion to discuss the reason the council meeting was called, and that would be the cell phone tower issue. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
All right. Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Excuse me, I think we had a motion on the table. We have a motion to say that.
Okay, that was before we found out it was a legal meeting.
Would you like to rescind your motion?
Okay,
I'll rescind
thank
my
you.
second.
All right, thank you. All right. Now that we have established it is a quasi-legal meeting, I guess we can say, we can go ahead and open for discussion. Who would care to
Move
start?
discuss.
Motion made?
Second.
We've already made and seconded here.
Is the public going to have a sign-in sheet, or is everything being very loud?
No, ma'am. No public comment in this one that I know of. Is that, do we allow public comment in special meetings?
We have not in the past. It's at the council's leisure.
At the beginning of every year, each individual newspaper, radio, or television station should send a notification to all public bodies and its coverage.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We've already voted on it, so the discussion's open. Now, Mr. Weaver stated that there's been no public comment at any of the special meetings before. Does the council wish to open this to public comment?
I would.
Is it a motion?
I would make a motion to open it to public comment.
Is there a second? Made and seconded, open public comment. Ms. Matsoukas, are you the only one
I don't
in
know.
public?
I'm so, I'm going to ask one indulgence here. I think the table is going to be public comment, but I want to give a comment. Is that good?
Yes, ma'am. Mic's open. 3 minutes. That's what we allow at regular meetings, so 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Oh,
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Are we on?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay, Pat Matsoukas, 5 Mountain Street. The issue with the cell phone tower is many, and there have been many mistakes made along the way, and today we had the opportunity to rectify this, to put the city needs first over that of private enterprise. In our, when these folks came in front and asked for a CUP to put in this cell phone tower, they did not ask for a CUP for a cell phone tower. They asked for a CUP in order to extend their storage building, which is all fine and dandy. It all changed after that, with no notification back to Planning Commission, which meant Planning Commission could not put the restrictions on this project that they should have. They could not even look at it clearly because it was already past them. So I believe that, number one, the CUP should be pulled, because when you look at 140808, which tells you the reasons you can get a conditional use permit, they have not complied because they're supposed to state their reason. They never came back and said, we're changing it to storage buildings and a cell phone tower. What stipulations do you want to put on this? How can we work this out? That conversation was never held at this table or at the Planning Commission table. So we have this situation. We have the situation of the letters signed by our chief of police and our fire chief. And while I understand their intention, I think that they were sort of misled to thinking that all they had to do was say, we need this. They were just signing their name. I don't think they realized that it then took it out of the Planning Commission's hands, the HDC's hands, the City Council's hands, and put it into a place where FCC then took reign. This body today, you have an opportunity to right a major wrong here by asking them to go back to square one. Stop it. We know this experience. We had the Latimer project on Hillside. We've had other projects that have gone through. This is not a good project. It sets a bad tone for everybody. And it makes me, as a citizen, feel like, why should I ever again come in front of the Planning Commission or HDC to do anything? Because you can obviously do whatever you want to do if you just lie. And that's not what that sign says, and that's not who we are as a town. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't know who's next, so whoever's out in the hallway, just send them in.
I will. Thanks.
Thank you. Nope. They're coming in back door, Nathan. Public comment?
Yes.
Okay, state your name, please, sir.
Hi, I'm Jeff Danos. I live at 2 Wood Circle in Eureka Springs. I'm not quite sure what you guys plan on doing at the meeting today. I understand you're probably held by the legal settlement by Smith. The only thing that I'm concerned with, well, there's a lot of things I'm concerned with, but the thing I'd like to address is it seems like there were decisions made between the city and the FCC recently. And after talking to some of the city council people, it doesn't sound like these decisions were made with the knowledge of the city council. Particularly what I'm speaking of is the letter from the FCC that stated they were lifting the stop work order. There was a reference